come and drive to the sacred spot to engage, and I didn't get a click. And not a click.
Not a click because you've been out of the country, so your battery wasn't being used. I'm guessing. I'm not the car talk guy.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why or what, but who am I to defy reality? I got to call it in.
But that's okay because you have spent the last couple of weeks since the last time we chatted with you here on the program. You've spent your time in India and in Israel.
Went to Israel from December 22nd to December 29th, and then flew to India and came back on January 8th.
Well, how is it spending Christmas in Israel for a rabbi? Is that
it was great. Mm-hmm. It was phenomenal. My youngest, Talia, who's a junior at Edina, is completing 8 weeks at the Alexander Muss High School in Israel program, and I went to visit her. Mm-hmm. And on Christmas Eve day, which was a Saturday, a Sabbath, we were in the old city of Jerusalem, and we went to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
Oh, you did? Did you have to get tickets ahead of time for something like that?
She knew her crazy dad would take her.
Yeah, and is that a big deal there? Is that something where there's many travelers and so on who would want to be
there? There were a significant number of what I would call pilgrims in the church that day, and while
was it hard to see around their big hats?
Sepulchre is much busier come Easter time, we didn't go over to Bethlehem where I'm sure it was packed. But there were a significant number of international pilgrims, and they came to pay their respects. We walked the Via Dolorosa, the Stations of the Cross, and that was packed too. But it was also during Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights, and we could observe that at the Kotel, the Western Wall. So it was a wonderful moment of mixture, even as I experienced a terrible set of what I would call extremist moments in Israel.
Is that so?
Yeah, you had just a few days before I landed, you had ultra-religious settlers attacking their own Israeli defense forces who were dismantling an illegal settlement.
So the government, the Israeli government, was dismantling some settlements as part of goodwill effort. I'm guessing, something like that, and then some fundamentalists were attacking their own government because they didn't want that to happen. Is that what you're saying?
Correct, and it was a snapshot of what happens when you mix the toxic elements of nationalism, fanatic, scriptural, abusive interpretation. You also had a circumstance in a town, Bet Shemesh, outside of Jerusalem, where some ultra-Orthodox Hasidim, called in modern Hebrew Haredim. Haredim refer to those who tremble. They tremble before God. These are people who live in the 21st century only physically, because emotionally they live in the 15th and 16th centuries, and they spit on a girl, herself an Orthodox young woman, who was walking to school, but dressed immodestly, according to them. So there is, even in today's New York Times front page, you have a new bellwether of what fanaticism is currently doing to the state of Israel. Questions of whether women have the right to sit on a bus with men, a bus that is going through ultra-Orthodox neighborhoods, because the separation between men and women is so important. So even as we worry about the Islamic Brotherhood, the Muslim Brotherhood, and the more fundamentalist Salafis in Egypt, their Jewish cousins over in Israel are also weirding everyone out.
Now, Rabbi, as someone who has studied and has personal experience in religion and culture and all, What's your take on that rise or that sort of public display of fundamentalism, regardless of what storyline of religion it's borrowing? There seems to be something consistent within.
We are finding it all over, and not enough people are listening to your radio show, and not enough people are engaging in the risk of dialogue. So it's much easier, regardless of the stripe you carry, the brand you carry, much easier to be certain and claim that certainty unilaterally than take the risk of engaging the other. You know, how is it that Jews, Christians, Muslims, the three Western monotheistic faiths, how is it that we aren't all just certain about God, and everything else is up for grabs?
And do you think that is this the death rattle of kind of fundamentalism in our world? Like, is it just sort of the final stages, and you're going to always have little snippets of this, and we shouldn't make too big a deal out of it?
I could jump up and down and say, yeah, once again, Pagitt is correct. It's the death rattle. Yeah. But, you know, I wonder if people in the 15th century talked to each other about the various inquisitions of the Catholic Church and said, yeah, we'll go through this, and then people will calm down.
Yeah, you probably it's been one long hospice for the end of fundamentalism, if I'm right, isn't it?
You know,
500 years
I do not have the formula for its causes, but I would engage people on the question of, as long as we refuse to hold it accountable, all forms of it, as long as we just kind of tisk or say, well, you know, that's their point of view. If we're not going to say, you know what, you cross a line when you spit on an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
You cross a line when you demand that your point of view regarding contraception now becomes government policy.
Well, Rabbi, hold on with us. We're going to be back, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And I want to hear what was going on in India as well, because I know you're equally as passionate about that. And I just think it's so fantastic how our world is accessible to us, both through our own travels, as you were able to do, and then through the stories that we hear, because the world in other places is not different from the world that we live here. So stick with us, and we're going to be back here with Rabbi Joseph Edelhiet on AM 950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota, and DougPagittRadio.com here after the break.